Well, good morning. For those who aren't from Tennessee, welcome. And for those of you that are from Tennessee, hope you guys got your grocery shopping in for whatever's apparently coming. Maybe. We'll see. But good morning. So I'm Braden Stover. Good to meet you. I work for the Tennessee Department of Economic and Community Development. Get to serve under the Deputy Governor, Stuart McWhorter, and Governor Lee. So appreciate Rod and the team for the invite and being able to be here today. And to our friends at TVA, thank you for jumping on this, and excited for the conversation. And so I'll introduce Dan. He's the Senior Vice President of TVA's Customer and Stakeholder Relations. Dan is a proud 28-year resident of Chattanooga and a collaborative, action-oriented leader with more than 30 years in the energy industry. At TVA, he oversees engagement with local power companies, direct-serve customers, and key stakeholders to advance TVA's mission of reliable, low-cost energy, economic development, and environmental stewardship. Dan's career spans leadership roles in nuclear projects, pricing, customer delivery, and global energy strategy. He holds a mechanical engineering degree from Arizona State. I'm from West Virginia. Don't know if you watched the basketball game last night, but it worked out better for me than you. And an MBA from Duke University. Yeah, it's okay. Outside of work, I'm glad we don't play them. Dan is deeply involved in his community and enjoys triathlons, travel, and outdoor activities with his family. So Dan, thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Absolutely. So we will jump right in. So we're talking about SMRs, nuclear, how that merges to support AI, crypto, all the things there, high energy needs. So why are SMRs, small modular reactors, such a good fit for energy intensive applications like that?
Yeah, great question, Braden. Let me dive in. I feel remiss in not also congratulating Justin. He and I have worked together for a long, long time at TVA, and look forward to his new capacity. So, really, the nuclear. Let me just give a little bit of background on TVA's energy mix for those that are familiar. So, currently, about 30 to 40% of our actual energy supply is with nuclear energy. And nuclear itself just has those inherent benefits of being zero carbon, being base load, continuous run. You refuel a nuclear plant 18 to 24 months and it runs. And so just inherently, TVA is very bullish. Greatly appreciate the support of the state of Tennessee in everything we do to develop this ecosystem and develop a new nuclear renaissance. As Braden mentioned, my first 20 years was actually in nuclear power. And so we have all seen a few nuclear renaissances kind of come and go. But specifically on small modular reactors, the benefit, of course, is being able to do them more efficiently, to be able to bring from breaking ground to making energy more quickly. You can better control the design, you can better control fabrication if it can be done in a more controlled environment than the large 1,000 megawatt plants that kind of classically exist, about 95 of them right now. So TVA is really involved across the board with, in essence, all the players. And so I can go into some of the details of those different projects, but let me just stop and I'll give back to you. But the idea is that right now there's a lot of push for energy, and as you all know, that the main thing that TVA is doing and every other utility is building natural gas. I mean, that's really what we're exploiting at the moment. But recognizing 5, 10, 20, 30 years in, this Crystal Palace isn't going anywhere, and that we really need to be getting the momentum on nuclear because it is such a perfect fit either for large loads for overall grid support or for smaller reactors to have co-located loads.
Very good. And so you mentioned kind of the renaissances of the past that didn't stick or weren't to be. From your experience, what's different between what we're seeing now and maybe what we saw in the past? Is it the drive for AI that we're seeing and the focus from the Trump administration and kind of the push of more computing power?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I would see the last renaissance that I was probably referring to was 2005 to 2008. You had rapid growth. You had this kind of projection for significant demand in energy consumption. And of course, we know what happened in 2008. A number of factors shifted that included, of course, the economy itself. But beyond that, it also was energy efficiency and demand response and other ways of kind of managing the system that really kept loads flat for about 10 years, certainly in the Valley. And I think people got used to that. We tend to be directionally biased, and whatever it is now is where it's going to stay. And that all changed for a couple of reasons. One, I think the coming out of COVID, all things such as focus on electric vehicles and batteries, focus on in-migration in this valley, but the main one that continues to emerge is data-related products, both mining and AI and everything. So at the moment, we have used up that available capacity. We are maximizing energy efficiency and demand response. And so all projections, I think, across all industries show that this growth isn't going anywhere. And therefore, what do we need to be building now? How do we need to be partnering with load consumers? And how do we need to be building for the future? And that's really where that nuclear piece comes in.
Sure. And I'm going off script.
Yeah.
So I know fireside chat.
Bring it.
It's kind of a free-for-all, see what happens. So you mentioned kind of the projections. Is there any, I don't know if concern would be the right word, but from TVA's perspective of kind of seeing where the demand is now, is there any thought to these new developments being more energy efficient in the future, and therefore, if what we're building now ends up being too much or overbuilding, I guess, being a concern? Is that something you guys are taking into consideration?
It's always something we take into consideration, but something we're not worried about at the moment. I mean, is the bottom line. I think there's just no scenario all across. You see the PJM market, the MISO market, certainly TVA, and everywhere. We're constrained. We don't even have the reserve margins we would like to have. And so we are building 4,000 megawatts of gas. We are looking at continuation of some coal assets if environmental regulations allow that to happen. We are partnering with nuclear partners here. And so really we will utilize anything we can get and anything we can build. At some point in time, we will be catching up as that efficiency curve probably continues to come. And so I would say over the next 5 years, there would be more clarity on what is the, kind of the 10 to 20 year projections. We may be more clear on that. But for the moment, I'm speaking for TVA, but I think it's consistent with other utilities. We're building everything we can to support you all.
Great. So you'd mentioned kind of the co-location piece. What are the benefits that you see from TVA's perspective, but also from maybe the crypto and the AI piece of co-locating? What benefits are there on both sides?
Sure. Yeah, so again, just speaking kind of from a TVA perspective, TVA serves about 36,000 megawatts of power. We have 16,000 miles of transmission line. The primary benefit is we're essentially a G&T, so we build the generation and the transmission. You take one part of that away if you co-locate, right? So the transmission interconnection queue is very long, just to be able to site a generator, go through FERC's process to get it into the queue, get it built, get it onto the system. So, and just physically building out. I mean, I think NIMBY is something familiar to everyone, right? Running a big transmission line is not popular. We never get asked to put one in someone's backyard. But so you really simplify the infrastructure needed. The benefit to the consumer, of course, is reliability, because you basically have a dedicated facility, and then you would certainly want more grid-supported power as well. But I think it's really the simplicity, the cost, the efficiency, and the reliability.
Okay, great. And you talked a little bit about the regulatory piece. what state level policies, federal support, federal policies, are there things that are barriers that you see? And, I know time is of the essence for a lot of these projects. Are there things that you've run into or seen from your perspective at TVA that could be improved both at the state and federal level?
Certainly, but I would say a lot of things are happening that are great. And so both at the state and the federal level, let me start at the state level. There's been a governor's committee on new nuclear. There have been a $70 million money put forward by Commissioner McWhorter and your staff on promoting this kind of nuclear ecosystem in Tennessee. And we have seen, I think, $40 million of grants given out to 12 companies. We have 3 major uranium enrichment players that have come to the state. Nuclear News Magazine last week ranked Tennessee #1 nuclear-friendly or nuclear progressive state. And so all the right things are happening with the state, with TVA, with the federal government, with Oak Ridge National Labs, with the universities to make Tennessee a place where that ecosystem and that focus on nuclear is happening. So I think that is already going at the federal level for our Clinch River project, which is 4 300 megawatt GE BWRX 300 small modular reactors. TVA also was just applied and was selected for a $400 million partnering grant with DOE to advance that. And so a lot of the right things at the state and federal level are happening. The one constraint that you mentioned, and again, I think this applies to all utilities, is that ultimately the cost and the risks associated with multi-billion-dollar projects just have to be managed such that this kind of first-of-a-kind cost isn't borne by the native ratepayers. And ultimately, that's where there's still work to be done, because if you're only looking at kind of the first-of-a-kind cost of a small modular reactor, or even, it's been a long time since we've had a major build-out of nuclear, so restarting that industry is going to take a little time before you get to nth-of-a-kind cost. And so how can the state and how can federal government support, and the vendors, the partners involved, support getting to that nth-of-a-kind cost that ultimately puts nuclear as kind of a mainstay, for the decades to come?
Sure. And I'm glad you teed up the council. Hashimian and I got to serve on the council together. I was probably the least experienced person that should have been on that council. So listen to people like Hash and some other experts from across the state that made that a great experience to kind of get us to where we are. So, you kind of talked a little bit about the funding and that being a challenge. Is there a mechanism, and I guess also TVA having the debt cap that is instituted by Congress, is there any way that TVA can partner with, say, a hyperscaler or a company of that nature that could help fund the massive amounts of investment that an SMR needs?
Absolutely. I can
Great.
leave you the account number.
There you go.
We take Bitcoin.
There you go.
But yeah, let me go into how I think this ultimately comes together. And of course, it's all about partnerships. And so the types of players involved, the utilities. Well, a utility's typical role was actually to be kind of the owner, constructor, operator. Interestingly, TVA has about 11,000 employees. At one point in time, it had 51,000 employees, 17 nuclear projects in motion. We were a nuclear construction company. I don't think that's the way the future will look. How it will look is you have your technology vendors, you have your GEs, you have your Kairos, you have your NuScales, and others. Their job will be to get the technology licensed. Their job will be to make sure there's a fuel supply source for their fuel, etc. Now you're going to have other players like an Entra One and others that are essentially constructor developers. They're going to put this package together that says, I'm going to partner with the technology. I'm going to partner with the utility. The utility's role is going to almost become on the front end and the back end. The front end utility role is going to be providing the site. I have a site. That site is certified with the NRC to be fitting of a nuclear plant. And then on the back end, likely the utility will operate the nuclear plant. Everything in between, I think, is through partnerships. So it's a technology vendor, it's that financing developer, and to your specific question, it's the hyperscaler or the off-taker that is willing to sign an MOU that agrees to the terms of how kind of that the energy would flow and the commercial aspects would flow. So the purchase power agreement saying that if you can get your technology license, if you can build it and finance it at this cost, we will pay and consume it at this rate under these conditions. The utility makes sure there's a site to put it, an operator to operate it, and I think that's how this kind of comes together in the future. And so ultimately, you've seen some TVA actually announce MOUs with Entra One and NuScale, also with Kairos and Google, exactly kind of the types of things that I mentioned. At the moment, they are structures around if this, then this, then this, then this. And so we're very hopeful we can actually turn those into electricity producing nuclear machines. So
Love that. And if we could, I guess, go a little bit deeper on that. So Kairos Power, a Tennessee company working out in Oak Ridge to build their first advanced reactor. Google partnership. Can you talk a little bit more about kind of how that came to be? Was that something that Kairos and Google partnered up and then came to TVA? Was that something where you guys were looking for partnerships? Or
yeah, I think it was more three-party as it evolved. I think I would say, in fairness to all involved, that Google had their own interests and initiative in finding the right utility partner, finding the right technology partner. TVA is looking at all hyperscaler off-taker partners, and we're looking at all technology vendors. And so I think any time you can find kind of that synergy and that fit, and so I think it was through all of those discussions. Google is a customer of ours. They have 2 of their major data centers in our territory. And so we are always looking at ways they would like to expand their operations. How can we do that in partnership? And so that I was fortunate. I was out in San Francisco not long ago meeting with both companies and again talking about what needs to happen and how do we work through that. And it's really fascinating how they're kind of iterating, taking, instead of, again, this kind of let's put $30 billion into a stick-built nuclear plant and hope everything goes right. They're actually building kind of, if you're going to fail fast, engineered test units, and they'll build one and then build another and then build another at pressure and temperature and then molten salt and then, so I think they're really defining a new way to develop nuclear technology, and it's fascinating to just be involved in all of them, given the fact that they're all so different. And I think that ultimately many of them will get to the finish line, and just who gets there first is still a question, sure. I think.
Absolutely. Can we, I guess, dive further into the Clinch River project? So you mentioned recent $400 million announcement from DOE. Talking about kind of that first entrant. You guys are seeing what's going on in Ontario, making sure as they kind of get things up and running and seeing what mistakes or good things that they're doing that might
lessons learned.
Lessons learned. Yeah, there is the politically correct way of saying that. Where does that project stand at the Clinch River site? What are the timelines? Is there anything that's standing in the way, I guess, of moving forward, and at what pace?
Sure. Yeah. I'm on the Tennessee Center for Performance Excellence, and we call them OFEs, Opportunities for Improvement, I guess.
Love it.
So just like you said, I mean, Ontario project is ahead of ours, which is good. I think it's good to be second or third in this race sometimes, because there's a lot to be learned from others. At the Clinch River site, essentially the status, TVA has been granted a early site permit, so that's in place. We recently submitted our construction permit application, CPA, last year. We are expecting to get that through the NRC by the end of calendar year 26. So that would be in place. At the same time, GE Vernova is still finalizing their design. So as I mentioned, the technology vendor needs to have their design finalized to the point of getting, of course, their own design certification for the NRC, but also that design finalization allows the builder, the developer, and to be able to better estimate cost risks. And so that's effectively where we are. TVA, like I said, site permit in place. We are actually doing site preparation activities. So we're moving dirt. We're preparing for construction activities, but we're not there yet. GE's trying to advance their design. DOE has put money in to support us all in a cost-sharing way, and so it continues to advance. That is the right way to progress a multi-billion-dollar progress with the appropriate off-ramps and stage gates, but it is inherently cautious and slow as well, and I think that is good and what needs to be the case, but we hope to be able to accelerate some of them soon.
Sure. What role does the TVA board now? New appointments coming on board there. Next meeting next month, right? What role and decision making does the board play? Do you anticipate any change in direction from the new board? What's kind of your perspective of what that new group will bring?
Sure. Yeah. I know there's a lot of people not from Tennessee, so you might not be keeping up with.
And I'll make one comment here before you answer. We got one more minute, then we open it up for Q&A as well for maybe 5-10 minutes. We record these presentations, but we do not live stream them. That's one. Two is if you want to nuke the presentation, we can absolutely nuke it. You guys have the final call. So that we want to have this as a free and open, and we have Chatham House rules, which is whatever said here stays here and is not personally identifiable to anybody.
I love how Rod was just like, I'm going to step in and just, before you say anything, he gives you this legal disclaimer.
That's
right. After that, the floor is yours.
It's been nice knowing you. I used to, former TVA guy. No. No, I wouldn't have said anything, hopefully, that needed to be edited. But so if you have been following TVA, we have had a board that is less than a quorum for about a year now, nearly a year. So we have been operating, so we have a 9-member board that's actually nominated by the president and confirmed by the Senate. And so that's a process. There's 9 board members. We have been down to 3 board members for the past almost a year now. The Trump administration did nominate and now confirm, and are sworn in 4 new board members, which is fantastic. So that restores a quorum. We have 7 board members. One of the new board members, Mitch Graves, is in Memphis. One in the Knoxville area, Jeff Haygood, lawyer. Randy Jones down in Gunnersville, Alabama, and Art Graham is actually a public service commissioner background in Florida, which is kind of, probably one of the furthest board members we've had from us. But it is fantastic to have the 7 board members with us. We have some committee meetings next week. Their first board meeting as that group will be February 11th in Hopkinsville, Kentucky, open to the public. But again, you asked if there's a change in direction. I would say I don't believe so. I believe that quorum actually allows us to make strategic decisions and even accelerate things that we need to be doing. So I think that you will see us focused very much on the United States energy dominance, also building all things like I talked about, advancing nuclear, and certainly supporting everything we're talking about here, data-related services, crypto, AI. So
perfect. All right. Let's do it.
That was excellent. Huge round of applause for these gentlemen. That was. Anyone got a pressing question? I got one. I could start it off. Yes, Michael.
But why such a hard push for SMR and not just building more next-gen traditional nuclear?
Yeah, it's a good question. And my own opinion is that it's not one or the other. It should be both, honestly. I think small modular reactors have a lot of promise, and there's a lot of new and different technologies, so we want to continue to advance that. But I think it really doesn't need to be one or the other. I think the AP1000 design that was built at Vogtle is being built around the world is still a viable option. And as I mentioned, TVA originally had 17 kind of projects defined. We have 7 operating nuclear plants, which means we have some great available nuclear sites still. And so we'll look at what kind of the best mix of which technology on which site. But yeah.
I've heard that too. That's another inside Tennessee baseball thing there. But I'd love a hard question for Dan so that Rod can get the
or a really hard one for Braden.
Great.
That's right. I want to ask one question, and then I'm going to pass it over to the gentleman over there. We got a number of folks from Wyoming, Ohio, all these other states, and we got a lot of capital allocators in this audience that want to spend a boatload of money in the state of Tennessee versus any of those places. If you had to give it 60-second pitch.
Yeah, I mean, well, again, going back to TVA, Tennessee Valley Authority was founded as part of the New Deal in 1933 to take a region that was impoverished and build it in, do our part to get where we're at today. We do that around energy, environmental stewardship, and economic development, and we have a partnership with the state that is as good as any in the country, I think. And so from stable energy, stable politics, great relationship with the state, great quality of life, and
no state income tax.
No state income tax.
That
yeah,
helps,
there's
right?
The list is long,
like that.
But no, I think as far as policy and really driving economic prosperity and reliable energy service, I think we would love your money.
Yeah, and I think to build on that, we definitely we hear from other states, and we hear from companies that work in other states, and they just never see the collaboration that they see in Tennessee, whether it's between us or the cities and the counties and the federal delegation. We all are on the same page when it comes to not just economic development, but energy policy. And we don't move forward unless we're all moving forward, and we usually 9 out of 10 times are. So it's a really great partnership that we have here, and we move quickly. So if you guys are looking for a place where you can be in a pro-business environment where you can talk to the folks that kind of make things happen, we're here and ready to make that happen.
One more question? Or I can... Are you guys going to be hanging around? Because I definitely want you guys to meet some of these folks as well. Here, one last question over here, Harold.
So 3 years ago, we had the first time, I believe, that TVA had rolling brownouts, blackouts. And as a...
We're out of time.
Yeah. No. This will be an easy question, but that's just to set it up. So after that, as a part of your post-event report, out of that came a new curtailment program across the valley. And that's been fantastic. I mean, it's just been great. My question is, has there been any analysis since that would give us an indication of where we are in that program in terms of capacity, in terms of advancement, that sort of thing?
Yeah, it's a great question, and yeah, I'll get a little. Couple comments. First of all, if you've been paying attention to the weather, as I know you have, because I think we got some emails on it, it's fixing to get cold. But yes, there were lots of opportunities for improvement or lessons learned out of that. And one of them was, again, how to better partner with those that have flexible operations to ensure we're providing the right incentives to be interruptible and using that as a resource. So to get specific, at the time of Winter Storm Elliott, we had about 1,600 megawatts under kind of our interruptible programs. We have probably nearly doubled that, but the actual amount of not only megawatts, but the amount of time during the year, the actual inventory of interruptible hours is almost 5 times as much as it was before. And that's going to continue to be the need in the case where we partner with industry. I was at an aluminum factory the other day. They say they cannot be interruptible. Everything solidifies. It's a big problem. But Bitcoin mining, highly flexible. Other operations, so I think TVA and utilities are just working harder to make sure we're exploring all those opportunities to increase the demand response capability. So I'm glad it's working for you all, and we appreciate your participation when it's needed, because ultimately it does save needing to build more things, and it saves and brings down costs that we all pay.